I have actually been calling for the last, I guess, 9 months for an economic CODESA, because the CODESAs we had in the early 90s were political. They sorted out the constitution. It was a brilliant job. We had a reasonable and free election in '94. But what we never did at the time was really discuss the economy. And whilst we have a political democracy, we certainly don't have an economic democracy. And nationalisation for me is just a red herring, because it's just changing the ownership of the sort of big formal economy. What we have to do is look at the second universe economy, the economy of all the young people who want to become entrepreneurs, and all the people who already are entrepreneurs but suffer under red tape or can't get the money. That's where the job creation is going to lie. It's not going to lie in changing the ownership of the mines from the private sector to government. So I would love to see an economic CODESA where we discuss how we're going to create an economic democracy that goes with our political democracy.
We've got excellent companies. You can see that in terms of how well our companies have done generally when they go overseas. It's really, I think, in that regard, government that has made the cost of labour very high and has caused us to be unproductive, and that's I think our biggest challenge for exports. Because if you just think what is
you're saying labour costs should come down, Kokkie. I mean, you don't agree with the fact that we're seeing such high wage demands coming through on the truck drivers' strike. When it comes to the miners, do you think that they're not deserving of those salaries?
Look, I don't know the answer, but I can just get you that your problem is I don't know whether it's a fair wage in terms of their own living conditions. But in terms of what they compete with internationally in India and in China and in Thailand and Vietnam, they're overpaid. So either you must improve your productivity and deliver more for what you're being paid for. And that, I mean, how many people turned up recently in that job advert in Durban where there were, I think it was a training skills were advertised. I think it was for 3 people and 10,000 people.
10,000 people, yeah.
I mean, it shows you that the African labour people want to be educated. They actually want to be skilled up. So it's not about there not being willingness, but there's something has gone wrong, that our labour is unproductive in terms of what they're earning.
I agree with Kokkie only in the short term that the labour cost has to come down. But if you look at Germany as an economy in the context of the EU, it's got high labour costs. But guess what? It's the highest exporter in the world. They've managed to build a globally competitive economic base, and they were the largest exporter globally until recently. They've been overtaken by China. I think in the medium to long term, it's about the productivity of our workforce. It's not so much about labor rates. It's also about the knowledge intensity of our workers. The German workers have got so much skills and so much knowledge. So we need, in the short term, deal with wages, but in the long term, in a sustainable way, focus on skills, on knowledge, and focus on global competitiveness.